On one end, you have your superstars that have changed the game and had or are having unbelievable careers. Everyone loves them, and you better love them too, or else. Then there are some players in the middle that we speak about that have had their growth stunted and didn't have the career expected, but at least still had careers and somewhat of a fair shot. But what about the end seldom talked about? Stories like today's feature that never had a chance and are considered busts by the majority of fans. These group of guys have a story that can also be a lesson in perspective that this side of the game does exist. A side with a painful reality that in this game, nothing is certain. Circumstance, basketball politics, team selected by, system, current players, personality, family and background, unavoidable injury, and so much more can push a player to being considered by the masses a huge disappointment, unequivocally, whatever that shit Stephen A. be saying. These guys made it to the top level, but had their growth stunted to the point of ultimate bust. Welcome to the new series where for these reasons, everyone got these players wrong in projection and they became wasted picks taken in front of some of the game's greats. Today's ultimate bust feature focus, Anthony Harris Bennett, born March 14th, 1993. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth. A former #1 overall pick that was compared to players like Larry Johnson and Zach Randolph. For those who don't know these names, if he were being drafted in the next draft, they'd all be saying he was the next Zion Williamson with a more natural jump shot. He came from virtually nowhere to gaining steam during the draft process, and with no clear-cut #1 pick names in that year's draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers dove all in on the hype and took him over 3 All-Stars, a Rookie of the Year, and a League MVP. No one could predict he'd be bought out of his rookie contract just 2 years after by an NBA team. Traded, yes. Demoted to the G League, sure. But to be completely given up on and paid not to show up, there has to be some extreme reasons behind that. Stunt #1, it's not his fault. I want to begin this player's story by saying this. It's really not solely the fault of Anthony Bennett he became a bust, but the people that put him in that position to be. He played 1 season at UNLV, and no one I knew considered him a lottery pick, much less #1 overall. Circumstances surrounding that year's draft created the perfect mix to set Bennett up for a huge fall. One that, had he not been taken #1, may still be in the league providing valuable role player minutes, or at least at the end of someone's bench. But because he was reached for and expected to be so much, he took the hardest fall. The 2013 NBA draft is arguably the weakest draft in the last 20 years. Of the 60 picks taken that year, only 3 became All-Stars, 1 in the top 14, and only 2 have made it more than once. Even looking back at that draft today, outside of a chance to take Giannis or Rudy Gobert, I may trade my pick. Matter of fact, if those 2 were off the table, I would most certainly trade my pick for future considerations. Anthony Bennett being in that year's draft, with the Cavaliers holding the top pick and having a superstar and system surrounding him already in place, made it that much tougher for Bennett to come in and have success that of a #1 pick. It at least added to his pressure, not that it's impossible. Anthony Bennett is also someone you'd call a workout warrior, a player that looks amazing in practice or all alone in workouts where he's standing next to nobody, so you can't really see the height disadvantage or lack of fight down low, or that he'd struggle creating his own shot, or that when his confidence is rattled, he'd back off and just accept defeat. Even with those, I still don't blame him solely for being the ultimate bust he turned out to be. I mean, what's he supposed to do? Not go hard in his workout? Tell the team he's not really ready to step into that role of a #1 pick and they should pass on him? In hindsight, maybe he should have, because the third pick that year can also be considered a bust, yet he's still on a roster and is the highest paid player by far on that roster, playing for $28 million this season. And Anthony Bennett is somewhere writing a future NY Times bestseller about life in Bustville. Stunt number 2, what position is he? One thing college basketball and the NBA likes to do for some reason is list players above their actual height, and I've always wondered why. It seems it's more attractive to fans of their teams and ticket buyers to see a bigger roster, which will get them more excited to see that player and spend money to do so. Some players get by with this because of their athleticism, and players like Anthony Bennett suffer. Listed at 6'8" in college, he was actually closer to 6'7" in shoes, which is a big difference when you look at his game style. Bennett, unfortunately, was caught right in the middle of a position he could have been successful at had that been more defined. Is he a power forward or is he a small forward? If you go by his listed height, you would think he was the next Lebron at 6'8", 240, muscular built and athletic, especially in an era where the next Lebron is in the corner of every draft room's mind. Okay, what's his game and why can't he be either of those positions? As a small forward, you're asked to do multiple things. It can be score, bring the ball up and be a facilitator, which requires adequate handle, shoot of course because you will usually be on a wing, create shots for teammates if need be, and anchor your defense if possible with your unique mix of size and ability to guard smaller players. Anthony Bennett was never a good enough scorer to warrant his draft position or expectations to become a star. He wasn't a bad scorer prior to the NBA, but for what he was made out to be, it just didn't add up. He wasn't skilled enough to bring the ball up, not having the handle or mindset/confidence. Facilitating was never his game, and at the size that he was and lack of awareness to switch on a guard, defensively he'd always be a challenge for you. As a power forward, he's not big enough, wasn't strong enough, or at least didn't have the mentality to fight and use his strength. He wasn't a good enough post player when challenged by bigger, aggressive fours and didn't have the shooting to be a stretch four at least. Because of this unflattering mix, he couldn't find his way and was out of the league after just 4 years. Stunt number 3, the person. One thing that's usually overlooked when drafting players is the type of person that player is, his personality. If I were looking to invest #1 pick money on a guy, I'm hiring personality experts, body language specialists at the meeting, psychologists, therapists, the whole 9 yards. Because no matter how good you are, you're never going to see your full potential unless you, the person, have some fight in you to step up when challenged and even when not. The mentality to want to dominate. You may not always win, and you may embarrass yourself time and again, but competing is #1, and I think the way things went for Bennett shows when it comes to fight, confidence, and will to be great, he had none. The one thing I said about Markelle Fultz after he arrived in Philly as the #1 pick is that I didn't like his body language. The whole playful, Bambi-like attitude was not appealing to me as a top pick. It seemed he wasn't built, as some would say, for it, and maybe a lower pick would have done him some good. Another player I think of when thinking of Bennett is Draymond Green. The thing that separates them is not talent, because if you put them against each other in a skills contest or even one-on-one, I think Bennett wins easily. But Draymond wanted and wants to be a good basketball player. He gives maximum effort and maximizes his limited ability. I think Bennett shied away from competition and setbacks. He missed his first 15 shots of his NBA career and went 4 games without scoring a field goal. That shows weakness mentally at that level. He shot 35% as a rookie and was traded after just 1 season to Minnesota, where he shot just 42%. He signed with hometown Toronto and was again disappointing, only playing in 19 games due to injury and lack of production. He signed with Brooklyn and averaged 5 points a game and pretty much nothing else. Before the All-Star break, the team waived him, making it the last NBA team he actually played for. 2013, he was drafted number 1. 2017, he was out of the league and considered one of the worst number 1 picks of all time. All in all, Anthony Bennett still made it to the league and enjoyed the ride of fast ascendance, but ultimately wasn't ready in too many ways to be what everyone wanted him to be. He should have never been a number 1 pick, but after he was, he didn't do himself any favors by not putting in the work to rise to the occasion, and for these reasons, he's considered an ultimate bust. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.